This is going to be a fun day. I'm really looking forward to this. Uh, this is one of those days where I just love watching everybody's creativity because, well, we'll get to that in a moment. But let's look at your notes. So you're on the Big Give 1A, and this morning is divided into two sections. The first is we're going to introduce you to the idea of a ministry plan. And I think this is a very important skill to have. And then in the second half, you will develop a ministry plan for a Big Give event that you're going to execute in the afternoon. And then we're going to reconvene and debrief your experience. So we want to give you a bit of training. Then we're going to have you actually develop a ministry plan that you're then going to execute in the afternoon. And then we're going to come back and debrief. So you can see the schedule. What is the page? 327. So let's look first at what is a ministry plan? A ministry plan is a comprehensive strategy to begin or grow something you are leading. So if you're in the business world, you've heard of a business plan. We're going to be talking about a ministry plan. Perhaps you've heard the saying, if you aim for nothing, you're bound to hit it every time. Often mediocre results in leadership are not because the Spirit isn't present or because it is not a good idea. It is because a foundation of prayer and planning has not been adequately laid. So I come from a charismatic background that believes in the power of the Holy Spirit and God doing miracles. And there's no replacement for the presence of God. But planning actually, will describe it, the benefits of it. But I think planning is absolutely critical. And it feels like sometimes in more, I don't know, spiritual churches or whatever, we go, planning, whatever. But I think it is a skill that is dramatically going to help you. The plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. The way to move from your present experience to your preferred future is to be honest about it. So your ministry is perfectly designed to produce the results you're currently experiencing. So that's an interesting idea, that right now, if you're leading in a discussion group or a discipleship group, or you're in kids ministry or youth ministry, right now, your group is perfectly designed to achieve the experiences that you're achieving. And the way to get more fruit is actually to change the way the event occurs. Sometimes we can just say, oh, God's Spirit isn't present and there's not faith. No, actually, the way that we've designed and planned something is limiting its growth. And the way that we increase growth is, yes, we pray, yes, we believe. I had something in my throat today. Yeah, we need to believe God to do things, but actually, it could be that we're just not planning very well. Using discussion groups as an example, or discipleship groups. Maybe the reason why our discipleship groups isn't bearing fruit is because we've not asked the question, how's your relationship with God, one another, and the world? And we haven't said, okay, how's your relationship with the world? Well, it's not too good. We don't just say, I'll pray for you. We'll say, what are you going to do about it? What are you practically going to do different this week that you didn't do last week? And when people start obeying, which is all a ministry plan is helping somebody do, when they start obeying, things dramatically change. And so it could be that we're experiencing a lack of fruit because we either haven't developed a plan or we're not executing that plan. We're not actually following through on the plan. So I think planning is as spiritual an experience as prayer is. So we need to be honest about where we're at, and we need to look at planning in order to move forward. Planning accomplishes two main things. A clear, well-designed ministry plan enables you to build something bigger than yourself, for it enables others to participate. So if you are just your own person, doing your own thing, you don't need any plan. You just go do whatever you want. But the moment you want someone else to participate in what you're doing, now you need a plan. And the more people you want participating, the more detailed and comprehensive the plan needs to be. So, I think of my son Jonathan. And when he was first involved in youth ministry, it's just him and Colin, and they're having a great time, and they get together before the youth night, say, what do you want to do? And it was all great, and, they just talked on the fly, and it was easy. Well, now he's working with an organization called Voices Together, which is bringing together all of the churches in the Lower Mainland to have a worship event on July 1st. Well, they've been planning this. It's July 1st is when it's going to happen. They've been planning this for months and months already. And so the more people you want to have involved, the farther back you have to plan, and the more detailed you need to be in your plans. So I think this is one of the primary reasons why you might struggle in leadership. It's not because you're not gifted. It's not because God's Spirit isn't with you. It's you haven't thought about the planning that's necessary for other people to participate. Carol Ailson and I, who's our campus missionary director, it's when we have our staff meeting, we go into great detail of planning. Okay, if somebody comes to Christ, this is how they'll first be introduced to a relationship. This is where they hear the gospel. We need a blue card in order to present the gospel. And then from there, they need to go into foundations. And we have this very detailed so that more people can participate. I was just talking to somebody, we were at a wedding last night, and it's a huge church in the city, a great church. They have no small groups, no discipleship path. So if somebody comes to Christ, there's nobody knows what to do. And they're just recreating something on the fly because, God bless them, but they haven't thought it through. And so if we want to make disciples who make disciples, that means we need to have plans and processes in place where lots and lots of people can participate. So you actually determine the amount of people who can participate in your ministry, as well as their level of involvement, by how long in advance you plan and how detailed you are in that planning. Planning is a big deal. Planning promotes transferability. Without a clear and reproducible plan, the extent of our impact is limited to the length of our arms. So if you don't plan, you get to work really, really hard because all you can do is what you can accomplish within yourself. With a plan, however, our reach can extend well beyond our personal capacity. And so leaders think this way. If you're a leader, you think, hold on, yeah, I can do something, but if I develop a plan and invite my friends into this, we can accomplish way more simply by me thinking a little bit farther ahead, inviting them into the planning process, things like this. B, most importantly, however, a plan is a wineskin that holds and channels God's Spirit. God's Spirit is like water. It becomes useful for drinking, washing, and so on when it is in a container. So, again, we contrast God's Spirit with planning, and I think the opposite is true. If we think that God's Spirit is going to come, then we need to create space for that to happen. If we believe that God's Spirit is present, we put on a church service. And a church service is a container for people to come into to experience God. So planning and Spirit actually work in cooperation with one another. This is the principle of power and form, where God's power and our plans create something explosive and enduring. And we need 100% of both. So, an example of this is, think of how you came to Christ. If I was to ask you how you came to Christ, you would probably describe a friend or a family member or somebody invited you to an event or talked to you personally. They were a container. But for you to come to Christ required the Spirit of God. There's nobody who can convince you to become a Christian. And so We speak. That's a plan. Speaking is a plan. And I'm deciding to speak now. I'm deciding to talk about Jesus. I'm going to share the blue card. That's a plan. But when we ask the question, is there anything stopping you from making this decision? For them to say yes to that requires the Spirit of God. And so these things are working together. Given its importance, we need to clearly understand and communicate God's plans and vision. Habakkuk 2 says, write down the vision and make it plain, so those who read it and run may stay on course, for the vision pertains to the future. Make it plain so that people can actually run with it. In Proverbs 29, where there is no vision, the people perish. So I just really want you to have faith for planning. You go, I just want God to do something miraculous. And if he would just come down right now and raise somebody from the dead, the whole city would come and they'd all become Christians. Well, actually, if God came and raised somebody from the dead, unless we had a plan for discipleship, nothing would change. There was a church in the city where there was an Indo-Canadian, East Indian, I believe it was a family that came to one church service. And in that church service, one of the family members was healed. It was amazing. Well, the next week, they have about 40 or 50 Indo-Canadians in their church. I mean, it's incredible. You never, ever see that. And guess how many are still there? None. Because when they came, there was no plan, way to lead them to Christ, disciple them in Christ. There was nothing. So an amazing miracle, one of the few times that I've heard it happening in our city. But because we didn't have a plan with that church wasn't able to make disciples, and everybody eventually left. So plan, or power and form, plan and spirit are both critical. And the longer I've been in ministry, the more I realize that what I'd love to blame on God is really just my lack of planning when something doesn't go well. And so let me just also say that it's just way easier to do something yourself. Then you don't have to plan. It's super easy, but you really won't be able to make disciples, and people won't be able to follow you. So there are three critical components to a fruitful ministry: a purpose, a people, and a plan. I want to give credit to Doug Penner. He and I have worked on how to develop a ministry plan according to nine stages. And he's been ingenious. I remember meeting, it was, I would say at least 20 years ago in a white spot. And we discovered that every process has three components to it. And within those three components is another 3 stages. And he's been working this now. He's been working with businesses and ministries all over, and just helping people all over the world, and helping people understand how to break down a process into logical steps. And when you do that, people can join you and be blessed by your ministry. And so these 3 big statements are a purpose, a people, and a plan. And you'll see inside of those, in the ministry plan overview, that there's 3 inside of each. So if you want to have a family vacation, you're going to have a purpose. We went on a big family vacation. How many kilometers did we put on last year? I think 7,000 kilometers, or some ridiculous amount. We drove all the way down to Arizona. And so what's the purpose? What are we going to do? Well, we had to figure out, and my wife loved me dearly, and it was all about, we're going to stop at different mountain bike meccas, locations all the way down, and the boys get to go mountain biking, and they get to go shopping or lie by the pool, or whatever's fun for them. And so we had a purpose. And then we had some values. One of our values is it has to be cheap. That was a value of ours. With that many kids, there's going to be, 9 children. And so this is going to be a whack of money. To go to Disneyland for one day is over $1,000. And so I hit up all of my pastor friends all along the coast going, hey, 10 or 11 of us crashing at their house. And I used up all my favors, I think, for years, having that many of us. That was one of our values. It had to be inexpensive, or as inexpensive as it could be. And then to buy the tickets for Disneyland, we used air mile points, and we had it all worked out. Another value is that we wanted to spend just quality time together. Sometimes, our life is so busy and scattered, we just wanted time to talk, create memories together. These are values. And then a vision. We believe that if we could do this, we could pull together our family. There'd be greater harmony between each family member. It helped them in their relationship with God, as they would feel close to one another. We were believing that they'd feel close to God. These are what we hoped the results would be. So we had a purpose, we had some principal beliefs, and then we had a vision. And then we needed the family to participate. So what we did is, this is what Debbie and I are kind of the leaders in this scenario. And so we need to let the kids know what they needed to do. So they needed to pack up their stuff and be responsible for this and that. Then we needed to organize how everybody was going to be doing their different jobs. And then we needed to assess how it was going, whether our packing plans were working, and then we needed to assess that. And then we needed to have priorities, a particular timeline, budget, and then things that we were personally responsible for. So whether you're planning a family vacation or a ministry area, whether you're planning even your own future, these principles apply to everything. And I really hope you'll grab a hold of them. Because if you think this way, according to those 9 stages, it will really, really help you be able to develop things that are powerful and meaningful. So let's just break it down then. We're at C, Ministry Plan Outline. Let's look at the purpose. The purpose of your ministry is captured in 3 main elements: purpose, principle, beliefs, and prophetic vision. Philippians 2 refers to this. Make my joy complete, being of the same mind, maintaining the same love, united in spirit, and here it is, intent on one purpose. People say, who study why people leave churches, is the number one reason why people leave churches is because the purpose wasn't clear and they didn't agree on the values or principles. And so there comes a point where they go, actually, we don't believe this. And that's why people will leave. So a purpose is the banner statement over what you want to accomplish. So in an hour, you're going to be developing a ministry plan. You're going to be given $50 to go and spend to advance God's kingdom. You need to have, what's our purpose? What are we trying to accomplish? That's the first thing you're going to ask. Your purpose statement answers the question, why does this ministry exist? It is a brief biblical summary of all that you have been commissioned to do. It's a banner statement. Back to the vacation. The first question is, why do we want to go on a vacation? The answer is the purpose of the vacation. So what are some example purposes? We want to create memories. We want to enjoy each other. We want to have quality time or relax or explore history, or you have to come up with a purpose. The mission, the purpose, shapes all your planning, goals, spending, activity, and so on. A purpose focuses our energy. It shows us what to do and what not to do. So as a pastor, I've had lots of people come up to me and they say, hey, I've got this great idea. I want to go and get a whole bunch of people, and I want to go to Colombia and start an orphanage. I go, that's amazing. So you're going to take all of our church people and go do your thing. Okay, well, what about the things that God has already given us to do? Well, I don't know. I didn't think about that. I just know what I want to do. Well, you can't say yes to everything. And so saying yes to one thing means saying no to something else. And so we need to be clear about what our purpose is. Right now, our purpose in our church is we prioritize reaching Muslims. And we want to do that by building up the church in China, by having a vibrant international ministry here. We have a purpose. And we can't do everything. So we need to be able to pool our resources toward a common goal. Principal beliefs. Another way of saying that is biblical values. There are lots of roads to arrive at a purpose. Our belief defines which one we take. For example, my purpose might be to make wealth. I want to be rich. But my beliefs will shape whether I try to get there through stealing and force, manipulation, or through integrity and cooperation. So you can have a goal. Your beliefs are what shape how you will get there. Here we ask, what underlying biblical values undergird all our activity? Our biblical values describe how we will fulfill our purpose, not in terms of activities, but in terms of motivation or convictions. One of the underlying values in our church is the value of relationship. So, whenever we think of planning any event, we always think about how it's going to promote relationship. That's what is one of our values. We're not interested in putting on a big event that people get to just file in, enjoy an experience, and file out again. If people come to an event, we want to make sure that there's lots of opportunity for connection, for relationship, because our values are driving how we achieve our purpose. Leaders can easily focus on external rules, behaviors, or structures, but more than anything, it is our beliefs that shape our ministry. For out of the overflow of his heart, which are beliefs, our mouth speaks. Therefore, a leader must ask, what biblical truths is this ministry built on? I was just talking to somebody the other day who's thinking of moving churches. And they say that the vision of their church, the values, is the way that they're going to spread the gospel is by starting TV stations all across Canada. Great. So that's a value. We believe that the best way to communicate the gospel is through public media. I'm not sure that's true, but that's what they value. A Starbucks manager who attended KLMS a while ago believed God called him to be a minister of reconciliation at his workplace. Imagine how that value shaped his career in ministry. So he believed, yeah, I'm a manager at Starbucks, but God put me in this company to be a minister of reconciliation. That's what I value here. So you can imagine, he was an amazing manager. And he was always building relationship and making sure that people were working cooperatively with one another and also blessing the customers. So let me ask you, what do you think a value was that your family was built on? Think about your personal family. What did your family value? While you're thinking, my family valued education. My mother couldn't finish high school, neither could my father. They both had to go work. They grew up on a farm. They didn't have access to education. And so they just had to work to survive. And so my mother told me, I cannot count how many times, Greg, you've got to get a good education. Well, why do I have a doctoral degree? It's because what my mother said to me. She valued education. Other families don't. What did your family, what's some of the value that your family had? What's that?
No, for my family, same thing. We value education.
Really?
Because that's the way to uplift yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, very good.
I think my family besides value education, we also value reputation.
Yeah.
Yes. Especially my father, he's a businessman.
Uh-huh.
He needs to get a lot of contact and cooperation with others. And my mom also saying reputation is important. So our family try to earn a good reputation.
Reputation, that makes a lot of sense. Very good. Keep going. What was something that your family valued? Hard work. Yeah. Yeah, my family too. Laziness is not good. Ukrainians are known for not being too bright, but they're hardworking. And so our family worked very hard. Kyle, what about you?
Maybe the same hard work.
Hard work?
Maybe for my dad, because he spent 10 years in the Navy, so
Ah,
he's trying to
that
get
military. Yeah, very good. Were you going to say something?
I'm thinking,
They always say
As long as you feel happy. Great, that's a value. Are you happy, Della? Really? We just want you to be happy. That's all we're thinking about right now. Can I get you anything? No. Uh, n- oh, interesting. Just got to feel happy. I like it. How about you?
We, in our family, we value respect
Good,
as
good,
well as being kind to people.
good. Excellent. Joshua, what do you think?
Even you have good dedication, if you're not kind,
Mmm, it's not good. Kindness. Excellent. What do you think, David?
Hard work for sure, but I think as I think about it, maybe it was important for us, ironically, to be loving.
Mm-hmm.
Like, things might have been messed up, but we were always, like even if it was disciplined or fighting with my brother, it was always, we need to be loving. Or,
Sure.
but I never thought about that before.
Yeah,
It's very interesting.
that is interesting. So, can you see how those values shape the decisions in your home? It's how you were parented, what you valued, how you spent your money. It's all based on values. And so, sometimes when we're a leader, we don't realize that people come into our sphere with some values that are unspoken, but it's driving them. So, uh, you'll come into a church that's really easy going, hey, how's it going? And they start 15 minutes late and everybody's laughing and shaking hands. And people are really upset. And the leader's thinking, why is everybody upset? We're having such a great time. And it's like, my time matters. And it's 15 minutes late. We haven't even started yet. I don't know where the coffee is or whatever it is, because they have a different set of values. And so unless we can bring our values out into the open, it's going to be hard to build unity. This is the most difficult part of building a multicultural church, is that we come, like this idea, Mary, that you talked about, reputation, or white people hardly care about that. They just want to have a good time. And great, it's not raining today. I think I'm going to be at the beach. I'll just call in sick and say I'm sick-ish. And, because, we should enjoy ourselves, and that's what really matters. And so those two values are going to clash against one another. The idea of respect is more valued in Asian cultures than it is in a Western culture, although it still probably looks different. And then so we feel insulted, and it's not because we didn't understand the rules, it's because our values were violated. And so values is a very, very big deal.
Preach a sermon.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I think it'd be good for a multicultural church to understand that. Like as you're saying it, I think we're making all these judgments of one another, not realizing that they're actually very value-based personalities and
Yeah.
value-based individuals. And that if we could understand the importance of valuing one another's um, values,
Yeah.
then I think
Oh,
there'd
it's
be a
huge.
greater sense of unity.
I remember going up to somebody just the other day, and they have a Muslim background, a woman. And I went up to her, and I shook her hand, and I put my hand on her shoulder. It's so good to see you. And I thought, I think I just broke a whole bunch of very deep values. And I'm just trying to be friendly. But I got, oh, Greg, you know better than this, And from a culture that's, you don't even see them, to me going, hey, it's so good to see. And so I'm breaking values. And it's just really great to be, okay, in terms of vacation, what might the parents value during a time of vacation? For example, they might value playing together, or having deep talks, or sightseeing. These things are not their goal, they are the way to get to their goal. That's what a value is. That if we do these things, we will be respectful. Understanding values helps us understand what causes teen conflict. Well, people argue over external issues. Really, they are fighting for underlying values. Uh, One of the big things in church right now is God in control or are we personally responsible? That's a big issue in the church. And so, somebody will say, well, I think we're responsible. And then other people get really angry with them. Go, why are you so angry? Well, if I believe that you're in control, then it means that God isn't sovereign. And if God isn't sovereign, then he's not in control. And if he's not in control, then we're not safe. And shouldn't we need the security of an almighty, all-powerful God? That's what they're fighting for. They're not just fighting for ideas. They're fighting for the values behind those ideas. And then the other side says, yeah, well, God's in control, but you just are lazy. You're not doing your part. Well, they're fighting for a value. And so when you're disagreeing with somebody, listen long enough to hear what their value is. And then you'll be able to go, oh, well, yeah, I value that too. Respect is important. I just show respect in a different way. I let you be sick-ish. I'm respecting you. So unless we can talk at a values level, we never experience the unity or fruitfulness we hope for. The most important values we are to uphold are biblical. Throughout church history, we find that what made a movement distinctive was their doctrine, what they believed. This was the foundation upon which they built. This is why, starting next week, we're going to be spending 2 weeks going through core Christian doctrine. It's my favorite thing to teach. I just love it. And because for me, it's not just speaking about facts. It's about the heart of who God is and who we believe he is and who we are as his children. These are just so valuable to me because I believe they shape all that we are. What we did in our church, and this is just our church, but what we did is we built our values on our core doctrine. In some churches, their values will be, we value creativity and fun and, solid biblical teaching. And so I like that. That's great. But I want to know, we are built upon the Word of God. And what does the Word of God teach? So if you're a Baptist, that denomination, you'll have a certain way of understanding the Bible. If you're a Pentecostal, you have a certain way of understanding the Bible. Those become the values that a community is built on. Ministry must be founded on God's truth, not popular opinion, pressing needs, or personal agendas. Otherwise, our ministry is a reflection of someone or something other than God. So when you have values, challenge them to see whether they reflect who God is. Unity is found then in common beliefs, not external conformity. That's the difference between a cult and a faith. A cult says you all need to dress the same way, think the same way, behave the same way. But the unity that's found in the church is we have a common devotion to God and a common commitment to love one another. It's deeper than external. And then we base our discussions and decisions on agreed upon values. Our activities are free to continually improve toward better reflecting our values. I just want to spend a moment talking about this too, because it helps that you would understand this about our church. I don't know if you've noticed in our church, but we're always changing things. We used to call life groups, now they're called communities. And now inside of a community, we have discussion groups and discipleship groups. And that wasn't as clear as it was, a year or two ago, that we didn't have that language. And we're always changing. And so people can say, why is this church always changing? Well, our values never change. We're just trying to better express our values. And so if you feel safe by having structures never change, you won't feel safe in our church. Because our structures are not sacred to us. Our values are sacred. And so if a new structure can better express our values, we'll get rid of one structure and do another structure. But we're not being irresponsible and just, whatever comes to mind. We're constantly going, these are our values. What structures are best going to express these values? And so every structure and program has to submit to the values. So when you know that, you can feel safe in our church, because we're not just changing things all the time. Our our purpose, our principal beliefs, and our prophetic vision have not changed for, pretty much since we started our church. They've never changed. But what has changed is we're trying to better express those values all the time. And so, knowing that, the leadership will look less irresponsible, because these first three almost never change. So the prophetic vision is the outcome or the bullseye. I know in Asian culture, you know what the bullseye is? So you know what an arrow? If you shoot an arrow in the middle of the target, the bullseye, that's what that's called. It's the target you're trying to hit. Vision asks, what will be the unique long-term result of fulfilling our purpose? It is a prophetic picture of the impact of your ministry. It is what success looks like. So, in our church, we talk about reaching this city and what it would be like to see a whole city reached with the gospel. We don't believe that we're the only church that's going to participate in this. We think it's going to take thousands of churches, but we want to play our part in that, and we want to reach a city. We don't just want to build a nice country club, a nice little community where we all feel loved and cared for. We believe that a city is going to be transformed. I was just talking to somebody last night. They're looking at moving churches because their old church was just trying to be safe and care for one another. And he says, how can we do that when there's millions of people going to hell? That's not right. He was making a value statement, and that's why he's going to probably leave his church. And there's a prophetic statement. We believe that God's called us to transform a city, and this is what it's going to look like when that happens. In the Healing and Prayer Ministry course, we saw how everything is first created in the Creator's mind before it becomes a physical reality. Vision is that first creation. It is a prophetic description of what will be, and there must be a sense of urgency within it. I can't tell you how passionately I feel about seeing disciples who make disciples who make disciples. That just is a vision. I can see it in my mind, and I think about it every day. And I believe that we're going to have a church where all the people in the church, not everybody's going to participate, I understand that, but everybody has the opportunity to be able to make a disciple who makes a disciple who makes a disciple. And I really believe that. That's a vision that we have in our church community. So what do you hope your family vacation will accomplish? What do you envision success being? It was really great after we had our big vacation. It was fun afterwards to hear the kids talking to one another and laughing about something that they did together and just appreciating one another. And, Debbie and I will look at each other and go, yay, it worked. The vacation accomplished what we were hoping for. They like each other more. They get along. They're laughing together. This is so great.
That's when the being in the mall, and Tyler's our very sort of more religious kid, and he really doesn't want kids to flirt, or he's just very vigilant about, not dating till you're. And of all the kids in the mall, a girl comes up to him somewhere in California and says, "Can I get your phone number?" And you can just imagine how all our kids loved it. That of all the kids, Tyler's beat red. He goes, "Oh, I don't have a phone." But his phone was in his pocket. But this is one of the highlight stories because of all the kids. It could have been Noah, could have been Isaac. The macho Latino boys. But it's Tyler who gets asked for his number. We still laugh about it.
It's great. It's great. So we had a vision of what would happen, and it was accomplished. So note this then, that we'll take a break after this, that our purpose seldom changes, but the people and plans portion of a ministry plan do change. But the first three, the purpose, which includes purpose, principal beliefs, and prophetic vision, These things seldom change, and it should seldom change in a church community, or else people feel very insecure and mistrusting of the leadership. What are they about? What things always are changing around here. Well, if these things are solid, you can have creativity and change and still allow people to feel safe and that we're moving in a common direction. So let's take a break.